Hey everyone, here's that video I've been promising about winter shelters. The shelter or encampment basically is what I would use when I was guiding on Denali or in the Wrangels or Chugach or whatever. So it's pretty time tested. This is what's used, around the world. It's very strong. It keeps the wind off the camp. And what I'll do is I'm going to walk you around, show you what I've done here. Feel free to give constructive criticism anyways, and those who've got questions, feel free to ask. So I'll walk you up here to the front. What I've done is I built about a 20 by 10 foot encampment here. The walls are about 3 feet high. The area of the encampment provided all the snow for the blocks. I didn't have to go outside of the encampment to get the blocks that I need, or any of the snow that I needed. Certainly by going around afterwards and bailing snow up against the outside of the walls just helps reinforce the walls. And if you've got a strong wind, especially on the upwind side, you'll want to do that, and that will allow some of the wind to continue on and hopefully blow over the top of your camp. It's set up right now so that the front of the camp is here towards the cooking area, and the tent is off in the background. What I've done here is you can see there's a bit of a short return wall coming out, and that keeps the wind from going straight into the encampment, but it does allow a little bit of wind to go in and get towards the front end of the tent, the entrance of the tent. Not a strong blow, but a little bit. And that's important because in a bad storm where you've got a lot of wind and snow coming down, you don't want to have the whole front of your tent drifted up and the door covered. That could be really, really bad. And certainly I've been buried way more than once, but it's usually just because of heavy snowfall, not usually because of heavy winds. What we've done here is I've got the camp kitchen set up right here. I've got, as you can see, right near the entrance. It makes it really convenient so you can get your snow. The snow's in a clean, separate bag, and you get it from a separate area, somewhere nearby that you haven't contaminated. Snow saw, it's an absolute must. You can't build a camp. You don't want to be out winter camping without a snow saw. I prefer to carry 2 shovels. I've got a small one, and that's for bailing out snow or doing daily chores. For making all of your camps, the only way to go is the good old grain shovels. They just can't be beat. I'm going to go kind of quick here so I don't bore you all to tears and I don't run out of time on my video. What I've done is I've got a basic kitchen set up here, meal for the days set up, and I do a lot of my own stuff. I don't like to go with the store-bought dehydrated vegetables and meat, along with usually I do add pasta meals or rice meals or something like that to mix in with all the veggies. 3 hot drinks, and you're good to go. The kitchen itself, so I'm going to do this without making you all seasick. The kitchen itself, here's the stove board I talked to some of you folks about. It's just something I built myself, and it's worked for years and years. It's just blue foam or a foam pad set on top of basically clipboard material, and then I put a little bit of tin on top of that. My XGK stove is set on top of this, and I've just used washers right here, as you can maybe see. And those are just bent up to help hold the XGK. This allows me, while the stove is burning, to pick it up, move it around, take it into the tent if I need to start cooking in the tent because the storm is too bad, whatever. Even with a pot on, it can be done. You have to be a lot more careful, obviously. This is an MSR cook set. I love them. I swear by it. 2 pots, a lid, and most important is your heat exchanger. This heat exchanger is brass. It goes around the pot, snugs down kind of tight with a little adjustment knob there. This brings the pot to boil so much faster. And when you've got to melt snow to get every drop of your water, and even if you don't, just to boil water for purification, you just can't beat these things. But I always use the big pot for snow, and I don't contaminate it with the cooking that way. You can at least enjoy the flavor of whatever you're eating, and it doesn't taste like last night's dinner. The small pot is what I use for dinner. Let's see what else. When you've got your water heated, you're going to always want to start filling your water bottles right away. Making sure you have an insulated bottle covers for them. These work really well, especially once you've thrown them down inside your pack or your coat or your sleeping bag or whatever. And then spare thermoses for the water when it's hot. That way there during the night or in the morning you can still have some hot water to make a quick cup of something. Eating mugs, better than bowls. Only way to go is go get a good sized insulated mug. your food won't freeze before you can get to it that way. If you get called away, you've got to, go get snow or whatever it is you need to do. Eating utensils should always be the Lexan. Be sure to put a cord on them, and that keeps them from getting lost, so you can clip them to your pack or whatever you need for the day. I carry two pot grippers just because you lose one, it makes it really rough. A stove kit. This one here I've beefed up with a few extra parts and pieces, but this gives me enough that I can rebuild my entire stove, which is a really good thing. All right, let's go over here to the tent here. I'm trying to go quick here so I can try to cover all of this in just a few minutes so you guys don't get too bored. All right, this, like I said, we've set this up so the front of the tent here is all where the wind is going to be hitting in this direction. So I've set it up with shock corded tie downs. I make these things, they work great. I've used them for years, decades actually, I hate to admit it, but it's just some heavy shock cord seized with a little bit of extra play here. If the tent takes a hard hit, let's see if you can see this here. The tent takes a hard hit, it allows this tent to collapse, a 1.5 feet or 2 feet inward, which is way better than allowing that tent to be tied down so rigid that when the hard blow hits, it just shreds your tent. I've seen it happen before on Denali, and it's not a pretty thing when you're up real high on the mountain and you've got no tent anymore. Hopefully you've got your snow shelter building just down pat. So anyways, on the upwind side of the tent, these are a really good idea to make a bunch of these things. Just simple lightweight cord with taut line hitch, and that allows me to adjust the tension. In this particular case, I've just run these through the wall, and there's a dead man on the other side of the wall, so that when you pull, you're pulling against the whole wall. Snow stakes and such as that don't really work so well in the snow because you're going to pull them out. It's always better to use some sort of a dead man, whatever that might be. Your ski pole, snowshoes, whatever, buried down in the snow, that tent's not going to go anywhere. In case you end up in a situation, we get them on Denali sometimes where the jet streams come down. I don't even know what the winds are. The wind tower at one part at 19,000, whatever it is, 19,500, 19,300 feet there, Zebra Rocks. The tower folded and the meter broke at 210 miles an hour. So it can really crank out there. So when you get into really big winds, of course, you want to build your walls up higher. But building your walls up higher, even in those kind of winds, and I've got some video, I was trying to share it with you guys, but I haven't figured out how to do that yet. And it was a one particular storm where it was actually lifting up 4-man tents tied down with people in it. So, and the walls were probably about 6 feet high at that point in time. But the vacuum was so strong of the wind coming over the top, it was actually lifting the tents up. So in that case, we used climbing rope, and we build a spider web over the top of the tent in climbing rope. On that note, that's why I always carry, when I head out to the field, what I call is a half rope or 25 meters of 7 mil in a throw bag style. So it's fed in. I can merely grab this one end that's sticking out here and throw the bag just like a safety rope for boating. And it'll all just stream out there, 25 meters of it. So if somebody needs an emergency rope real quick, you've got it. But then I've also got something that I can tie the tent down with. How are we doing on time here? I'm working at it, folks. All right. I know, wilderness camp here in suburbia, right? But hey, at least I got it. At least I got the video done. So inside the tent, my expedition tent here. Let's see if I can figure out how to do this. So the tent itself should be sitting on top of a space blanket. I left this out so you guys could see it. This is the heavy duty kind, about $15 at Cabela's. It keeps your tent from freezing to the ground and adds that little bit of extra insulation, which is a good thing. Let's see if we can get this worked out here. If you're going to cook in the tent, see if you guys can see that. It's a heads-up carbon indicator. Okay, you've got to have this, and you want to put it up in your tent here. There's a little what they call the attic up here. Great place for drying gloves off. But if you start cooking in the tent, these things will save your life as well as your partner, who's not allowed to go to sleep while somebody's cooking at the stove, because the circle will go dark if it starts getting toxic in there. Sleeping bag systems. Sleeping in Alaska or anywhere else on the cold and snow, you really need to have 2 pads. I use a solid foam pad on the bottom. This is just your old basic ridge rest right here. Then on top of that, I use a medium weight, full length Thermarest on top of that. And I prefer a double bag system. That's just me. It's what I like. So I've got a 650 fill Gore-Tex down bag on the inside. Make sure your winter bags have got a collar on it, because you've got to cinch that collar up around your neck, or every time you move, you're sucking in cold air and pushing out the hot air. So by tying that collar down, allows you to shift around in your bag and not exchange that air. Over the top of that, when it gets cold enough, I will add a 40-degree overbag. And the advantage of this is synthetic. If I'm putting out a lot of body moisture, and you do when you're sleeping, I don't end up with moisture condensing in the down or even in my Gore-Tex. It comes through here to this upper bag that's synthetic, and you'll note it's a dark color, just like the inside of my sleeping bag. Those dark colors are great because in the wintertime even, step back outside here, in the wintertime, you can just throw your sleeping bag up on top of the tent, even on a hazy day, and it will sublimate most of that moisture off of that bag. You get a sunny day, turn the bags inside out. It really takes no time at all for your bags to dry out. But moisture inside of your bags will slowly kill your bag. I think that's about it. I know there's going to be a lot of questions. Feel free to call, ask, whatever. You can comment on the video too. Thanks a lot. Next one, I'll talk about some bivy options for you. I've got some stuff on that, and it's just too much to put into this one video here. So take care, stay safe, enjoy the outdoors no matter what the weather is, because, you know, there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad equipment. Guys, take care. Bye.